Hello and welcome to the Kennel Connection webinar on creating and managing packages in the Kennel Connection 6 program. My name is Scott. I'll be your presenter for today. So today we'll be looking at creating and managing packages again in Kennel Connection 6. And to start with that, the first thing I'm going to do is go to where packages are created. Then we're going to backtrack to settings for packages for specific modules, and then take a look at how they will appear on your schedules. So for creating packages, the first place we're going to go to is the File tab, and then Lists. In the List section, you'll find tabs for boarding packages, pet sitting packages, grooming packages, other packages, and daycare packages. Boarding, pet sitting, grooming, and daycare packages can be created, as well as packages for any other inventory item in the system. I'm going to be focusing a lot on the daycare packages during this webinar, as daycare packages are a bit more detailed or complex than the other packages in the system. So I'm going to start with daycare just to take a look. As you can see here, you can create packages either full or half, depending on if you have half days enabled in the system. And again, we'll go look at those settings in a bit. When you create any package in the system, you're going to create your package code. This is going to be the code you select in the drop-down in a packages invoice. The package name, which will appear as the description of the package on the customer or pet card, or on the package invoice that will appear as the description. How much the package costs, and the number of days that will be included in that package. If you have half days enabled, you'll be choosing for daycare whether or not to make this a half-day package. And you can also include an expiration date based on the date of purchase. So for example, for this package here, if I want this to expire 1 month after purchase, upon purchase, the Kennel Connection program will automatically create the expiration date on the pet or customer card based on the purchase date. One thing I want to highlight with the half-day packages is that if you check a box on a package you're creating for daycare as a half-day package, the number of days is going to equal the number of half days. So if I check this and turn this into a half-day package, that's not going to be 10 days worth of half days or 20 half-day packages. That's going to equal 10 half days. So just keep that in mind when setting up your half-day and full-day packages in daycare. You may notice if you are using Kennel Connection now and you were recently converted from another program or from Kennel Connection 5, you might see these trans full and trans half options. These are defaults that appear in the system during such a conversion that will bring over days from Kennel Connection 5 into the system, as Kennel Connection 5 handled packages a bit differently and did not have individual packages tracked on the pet and customer cards like they do now. And we're going to take a look at those pet and customer cards and how the packages appear there shortly. Once a package is created here, it can be purchased in the system, and we'll go over the different ways you can sell packages to your customers as well. Beyond the daycare packages, once again, we have boarding packages. Same setup without the half-day option. We also do not have expiration dates on the boarding packages. Pet sitting, same thing. Grooming works very similar. Now, for pet sitting packages, you're going to choose the service, pet sitting service you have set up in the system already, and then create a package based on that. So if we were creating a package here for pet sitting, we would choose the pet sitting service we want to create the package for. In this case, my pet visit walk. Enter the code, the package name, again, the cost, and the number of services. Once we've done all that, we're going to click Save. And the package code will appear on the left. This is how it's going to work in every tab for packages. You're going to click New to create a new one, and then once you save it, it will appear on the left-hand side based on the code you've assigned that package. Grooming works a little bit differently. For grooming, you're going to, instead of a drop-down of Groom services, you're going to click the little Browse button here and choose the groom service that you wish to create a package for from the inventory list. So here for grooming, for example, for nail trim, for bath. Once you select that item, the setup is just like the others. Finally, we have other packages. For other packages, you can create inventory item packages for anything that shows up in the inventory section. This would be any additional services in inventory and any additional even inventory items in inventory. For example, I have a leash package created here where I'm selling leashes ahead of time during packages. I'm not sure how often that might occur, but it's, as an example, it shows you how you can set up your inventory items like this. Keep in mind that all of these packages are only going to apply when an invoice is created from a booking. So, if, for example, if I did create this leash package here, and I just created a blank invoice and added this, a package unit for leashes is not going to apply towards that invoice because that invoice was not created from a booking. You'll see this in process as we go on to the schedules to take a look at the packages. So in this kind of situation, you would have to add the leash to the inventory item of the schedule in order for it to decrement a package unit from the package. This can be used for other services as well. One of the more popular ones, which I'll demonstrate here, we're going to click New Other Package. I'm going to go to our Browse button here. And so let's say if you have packages for deliveries of pets, we can choose that, hit OK. I'm going to create a code for that, package name, our package cost, and our number of services. So once I've saved this, if you're assigning deliveries and pickups in your schedules, when you create an invoice for that booking that has a delivery attached, the system, instead of billing them for the delivery, for whatever price you have set up in the system, it is instead going to decrement a unit from that delivery package. Also keep in mind, when we click the Browse button here into the inventory list, we have three options on the right to choose from. We can look for system items. These are default items that come with the program and are hardwired into the system, such as daycare, pet sitting, delivery. We can choose product, and this will show all inventory items we have in the system, such as my leashes here, toy balls, can lid, not sure why that's there, and then any other additional services we've added into the system. So if you have additional grooming services that you've added here, or any generic services that you've added in the inventory section separately, they too can be selected from here. Once your packages are created in the list section, you want to make sure that your package settings are accurate towards how you want your packages to operate. For the most part, we're going to go to File and System Options. And the main concern for setting up package settings is going to be daycare. Your boarding, grooming, pet sitting, and other packages are pretty much going to work the exact same way. When you create an invoice from a booking, if those items are on the invoice for that booking, the system will automatically decrement a unit for that item, whether that's a boarding, pet sitting, etc. For daycare is a little more complex, as we can control when a day is decremented from the system and how days are decremented from pets or customers. So if we go to the daycare tab, the one thing we're going to see here is we can decrement daycare packages upon check-in or check-out. You can choose either one of these, with the exception of if you are using half-day packages. If you're going to use half-day packages in the system, you want to check the Enable Half-Day Packages box right here. you'll notice that once I check that box, the half-day package definition down here becomes visible or accessible. And then from there, we're going to choose our half-day definition. We can choose either a time frame, such as I have here, less than or equal to 5 hours, or we can say that a half day will occur if a pet is checked out before a certain time. When you're using half-day packages in the system, Kennel Connection will automatically deduct a half day based on the half-day package definition you have down here. In order for that to work, you need to have daycare packages decrementing upon checkout. That is so Kennel Connection can tell what time the pet is checked out and compare that to the check-in time in the case of half-day package definitions being equal to or less than a certain number of hours, or it needs to compare it to the checkout before time in order to properly deduct a half-day or full day. So you can only choose checkout for decrementing daycare packages if you are enabling half-day packages in the system. Another option you need to have set up for the decrementation of half days is adjust in-out time on pet check in and out. With that set up, once you check a pet in or out of daycare, the system is going to adjust the in or out time to the actual time on the computer. This is important because Kennel Connection will not be able to tell the accurate amount of time the pet has been in and out unless you have that checked and it is applying automatically when you check the pet in and out of your system. You also have the option to allow negative value for package days. So if your customer has a package and this is checked, it will prompt you that the customer is going into negative days and ask if you want to take a negative day off of that package instead of just charging the customer. Some facilities use this to acquire a negative number of days, and then when you sell a new package, or in this case reload it, which I'm going to demonstrate in a moment, that will equal out the negative days with the new days purchased. One thing to note, if you're a Kennel Connection 5 user, thinking of switching over to 6 or just newly switching over to 6, the one thing you want to be aware of is that in the old system, Kennel Connection kept track of package days on the pet card directly for boarding or daycare. We did not have a list of individual daycare packages like you'll see in a moment. And so when negative days were set up in the system, any pet in the system would go to negative package days whether or not they had ever purchased a package. In Kennel Connection 6, you can only have negative days apply to a pet if they have a package purchased. So in that kind of situation, if you want to give all your pets the ability to go into negative days, some facilities track their packages like that and then take payment later and apply it that way. If you have a setup like that in Kennel Connection 5, the way you'll duplicate that in Kennel Connection 6 is to go back to the list section where we just were and create a package with 0 days and a 0 price and apply them to all your pets or customers. So then there'll be a package there that can be deducted into negative days. So as we just covered, those are your basic settings in the daycare section for packages. The only other thing you'll want to keep in mind is in boarding, for example, I would also recommend having your adjust in and out times on pet check in and out set. It's not going to matter as much for pet sitting or grooming or other services, but for daycare you definitely need that set up, and for boarding and especially for boarding beyond packages, you need to have that set up if you're doing any other kind of discounts based on times. So we're going to apply. Whenever you make any changes in system options or anywhere else, please make sure to hit apply so those changes are saved. Now, once packages are purchased by a pet or a customer, they're going to appear on the customer or pet card. I'm going to open up one of each here to demonstrate. On the customer card, packages are going to appear under the Packages tab. On a pet card, packages are going to appear under the Notes tab, and then there under the Packages tab. As you can see, in either case, the packages will be listed when sold. You have the code for the package, the description, how many days or items, units, of the package were originally sold with that package and how many are left. You'll notice this one has 28. We'll go into that in a moment, why that's different. You can see they count down here, and if we have expiration dates set up, they'll apply here. The customer or pet card is one of the places where you can sell packages to a pet or customer. In order to do so, you'll go to the pet card or the customer card, whichever one you're selling that to, and clicking the Add button. This is going to bring up what is called a packages invoice. This invoice is specifically designed to not only sell the package, but make sure those packages are allotted to the proper pet or customer. Because of this, this is not an ordinary invoice in as much as you cannot add anything to this invoice besides packages. If we click the drop down here under code, you're going to see all I have here are packages created in my system. So if I select a package, the package appears. Once we save this invoice, whether or not payment is taken on the invoice, that package is saved to the pet's card. Now, if we want to modify that package, we can do so by selecting the package and clicking the Modify button here. This will bring up a window that will allow us to change the number of days on there. So if for any reason you need to adjust the days for anything that happened in the past, if you want to comp a couple of days or deduct days for something beforehand, this is especially useful if you're transferring packages from an old system to Kennel Connection. And if you want to modify or add an expiration date, you can just change that here. In this case, I need to put that back down to 10. And there you see the modifications have taken place. Now, here's an example of a package that is down to 0. This customer has used up all of their packages, all of their days on this package. Now, you do have the option of selling multiple packages on a pet or customer card. As you can see here, I have multiple daycare packages here. With this customer, if this customer has no more full days left, I can simply just click Add and then choose a full daycare package and apply that to the card. That will work. However, that can clog up the package section with all these other packages, and having a lot of packages in here sometimes can be hard to track what's being decremented from. The easier way to do this is if you select this package and the customer wants to add more days, and this is even more useful if the customer still has a package with days left. Let's say the customer has this half-day package and they want to add another package on top of this one. Instead of putting two separate packages on the pet card here, I'm going to highlight this and click the Reload button. When I click Reload, it's going to quickly or immediately create a package invoice with the package that we're reloading already added. All I have to do is hit OK or take payment. And it's going to reload that package with another full package. So now we have 14 days left on this package. So that can be done with if it's left. Also, if the package is into the negatives, let's modify this as an example. If we go to reload this package, I'm going to highlight it and click Reload. Once again, the invoice comes up with the package already selected. I click OK. And now the package has reloaded and accounted for the negative days. So technically the negative days have been paid for with the package days purchased with the reloaded package. The customer packages work the exact same way. The main difference between a pet package and a customer package is that a pet package is only for that specific pet. So for Takashi here, this is the only pet that these packages apply to. For the customer, if we sell a package to a customer, this package will apply for any pet that customer owns. So if this customer owns 4 pets and they bring those pets in on varying days, you can simply sell the package to the customer, and every time that customer's pet, any of them, is checked in or checked out, created an invoice for, that package will deduct from the customer card for any of those pets. So you don't have to sell 4 separate packages to 4 separate pets and then juggle the days around sometimes. This is an easier way to do that. You do not have to choose either or. You can have packages on both the pet card and the customer card. If you do, Kennel Connection will first check the pet card for any packages and use them if they're there. If there are no packages applicable for whatever it's applying to on the pet card, Kennel Connection will then check the customer card. So you can have a customer package and a pet package, and once the pet package is depleted, Kennel Connection will then take away from the customer card. Also, if you have multiple packages in your system here, let's say we have 2 packages with expiration dates of the same kind for boarding, Kennel Connection will deduct from packages with expiration dates first, then it will deduct from packages without expiration dates. So if you have 2 boarding packages on this pet card, and one of them does not have an expiration date and one does, Kennel Connection will take from the one with an expiration date first, so you're not letting package days expire when they could have been used ahead of time, as opposed to the ones that are not expiring. Now, as I demonstrated, clicking the Add button here is one of the areas where you can sell the package to the pet or the customer. The other area where you can sell packages from is the booking screen itself. If we bring open the Daycare Schedule, now you'll notice on the Daycare Schedule, and Boarding Schedule has this as well, you'll see on the Boarding Schedule we have a left column that shows how many package days are left for the individual pets. For the Daycare Schedule, we have it broken down into client left and pet left, and you'll notice we have little backslashes here. These are for full days and half days. So for an example, Norman here has 8 full pet package days left. We can see the packages here, and we can tell when they decrement, they will change upon check-in or check-out based upon how the system is set up. Now, if we open one of these pets, you'll see that we also have in the scheduling itself listed how many full days or half days packages are left for that pet, or through the customer's package. So when you're creating the booking, you can tell the customer right off how many days they have left when you're creating it without having to dump out and go to the pet card, the customer card, the schedule, what have you. All the days are here. You'll also notice next to the full day and half day totals, we have purchase pet package and purchase client package. The package can be purchased here while you're creating the booking. There's our package invoice. Choose the package. And you'll see the days apply automatically once that invoice is saved. Again, you can take payment on the invoice as well, but either way, it's the creation of the invoice that's going to add those days, package days, to the pet or customer. Recently added to Kennel Connection 6, we also have an option here, you'll see just to the right of these package purchase items, is the ability to turn on or off using packages for the visit that you're creating. So if your customer has package days and they say that they don't want to use their package days for this visit, they want to pay in cash, what you do is uncheck that box. And when this customer checks in or out, depending on how your system is set up, the package day will not be decremented, and instead the customer will be charged based on pricing in the system. Below that, we also have a new option to not charge for the visit as well. So if you're comping the visit for the customer for whatever reason, you can do it automatically here instead of having to change it upon creation of the invoice. If there's a chain of communication where you're not sure if whoever is ringing the customer out at the end is going to know the comp that day. So checking that box will mark this as non-payment booking. And once again, checking this one will determine whether or not a package is used for this visit. Once we have packages in the system, packages will decrement upon check-in or check-out for daycare. Once again, for all other packages, decrementation is going to occur when you create an invoice for that stay. So for an example here, if we check Norman in and out, actually we'll check all pets in and out. Once we check out, days will decrement if the settings are allowing that decrementation. For boarding, our days are going to be deducted from creation of an invoice. So for this pet, for example, if we check in and then we check out, and we create an invoice, you'll see here that we have a quantity of 0 for the boarding stay. It was a single day stay. And then below that, we have a line item that says 1 pet package day used for Bat, which is the name of this pet, Bat Manuel. And then we have other charges that were pending that have applied to the invoice for previous days. There's a previous daycare and previous grooming. But here you can see how a package will apply in an invoice when the invoice is created. As I mentioned before, if you create a package, say for inventory items, like the leash package I had mentioned before, in order for that inventory item package to be applied, you need to be creating an invoice from a booking for that item. So that item would have to be added to the inventory item tab. So my large dog collar, and actually I don't think it was a large dog collar. I believe it was one of the, I think it was a 22-inch leash. I would have to add the inventory item here, and then when I create the invoice at the end of the booking, creating the booking invoice, it will deduct just the way we saw that boarding day deduct, where it'll have a 0 quantity or whatever quantity is equal to the deduction, and then below that it'll indicate that a package unit has been used to pay for that. That is also how grooming is going to work as well with packages. The same thing, if you have a grooming package set up or a pet sitting package set up, is going to work the same way. Once you create an invoice for that service, that invoice will deduct the package unit and will indicate on that invoice as we saw with this boarding one. If you ever have a situation where you are checking out pets in daycare, for example, and a package day does not decrement the way you're expecting it to, the first thing you want to do is double check the settings for daycare and make sure that all your settings are set up properly for what you're trying to do. Now we have another feature here that I skimmed over because I didn't want to complicate the settings until we had an idea how it looks on the screen here. We also have the option for half-day package definition. If we look below that, you'll see it says apply full package days, if any, when there are no half-day packages. If we check this box, Kennel Connection will take a half day off of a booking if the customer only has full-day packages. So for example, if I go ahead and check this customer out, you'll see now, since I'm checking them out within that half-day range, it is taking a half day off of that package. Also important to know in daycare is that if you uncheck a package, a reservation out, it will put the package day back into the system. So as an example here, I'm going to click checkout again on a customer that's already been checked out. And so if I check Norman out again, it's going to ask me if I want to undo the checkout. If I say yes, it's going to undo that checkout, and as you can see, that half day has been returned to Norman's numbers. You can also modify the in time afterwards. Like if I go back here and I change this 10 a.m. and let's make it a, we'll just go way back and make it like a 1:45 a.m. We now have our modified time of when the pet came in. And it modified for both of the pets because I said so, since it's a multi-pet booking. And then I go to check out again. Now you'll notice I'm saying no to create an invoice. And there we can see that the full day has come off of Norman's account because I now have a full day range of over 5 hours. The reason I'm saying no to creating an invoice is when you use a package day, that is essentially paying for the stay. So if we go to create an invoice, if I check this pet out, they have a package day, it's going to be used. But if I create an invoice, it's going to come up blank. That's because the booking has technically already been invoiced or paid for because it's applied a package day. Now, so when you are checking out customers that have packages, you can always click no to create an invoice if you have that prompt set to come up, and just watch the package day decrement as we saw here on Norman. If, however, you want to just double check to make sure the days are coming off, to make sure that there's nothing going on with the settings where the package day is not being decremented, you can always hit yes like I did and create an invoice. And if it comes up blank, then that's telling you that a package day has been deducted, and then you can just go ahead and cancel out of that invoice. And as you can see, the package day has been deducted. It's down to 17. And once again, if you have any questions regarding the pet's packages, even though they're listed right here, we can always right-click on the pet in the schedule, go to Open Pet, in this case because I don't have any packages on the client card, and we can then just jump to the Packages tab and see what packages are in the system. Now, as I mentioned before, you can just have multiple packages on a pet card. In this case, Norman here has 2 of the exact same package, 8 left on one, 9 left on the other. The system is just going to grab the first one. Since there's no expiration dates, it's going to grab the one at the top and just keep taking off of that one and then take off the other. You can do this, or you can use the reload button. I recommend the reload button just because this becomes less complicated. If you have 10 or 12 packages listed here and some of them are the same, it can cause confusion on just keeping track of what's happening on the pet card, even though the system is going to be taking those days off automatically. Another important thing to keep an eye on is, and again, for daycare, because daycare is a bit more involved, if you have a situation where the packages seem to be counting down incorrect numbers, if you're getting 0.5 showing up, or if the customer stayed for a half day and you believe it's a full day package, but it's taking a full day off, the one thing you want to do is make sure that these packages have been set up correctly in the list section. And by that, I mean if we go to the list and go to daycare packages, go to that full day package and make sure that it's not checked off as a half day package. And I would try to keep an eye on that upon initial package creation. I've had this happen in the past. I've had customers that have had issues where the packages don't seem to be counting down correctly. And what's happened is when they first set up their packages, they accidentally checked that half day package on a full day package or vice versa. Then later, when they realized the error, and that didn't save because I didn't click the save button. So if I do that, then later they went back and said, oh, I made a mistake. This should have been a full day package, and they unchecked this box. Now, unchecking that half day package box does turn this package back into a full day package, but it has no effect on packages already sold. So that customer still had full day packages technically, but in reality they were half day packages when they were sold, and they still are. So that's one thing you want to take a look at if you're having an issue where full day and half day seem to be getting mixed up in the system. First thing you want to do is make sure it's not a settings issue. If you're having trouble determining that, you can always give a call and we can take a look for you. That's basically it for the setup of packages in Kennel Connection. Now, again, like I mentioned before, I've gone mainly over daycare because daycare is a bit more complicated than the other packages. But the other packages, as I said before, are set up basically the same as daycare, with the exception of a lack of half days. And for boarding, pet sitting, grooming, and other packages, these are all going to happen on the invoice itself, like we saw for the boarding one I demonstrated. They're all going to show up there upon the creation of an invoice. So there isn't much difference between how those work. For the daycare types, just be very aware of whether or not, the daycare packages, just be very aware of whether they're marked as half day or not. And in your system option settings for daycare, you really want to make sure that you have your settings right as far as checking out if you're using half days, making sure that you have adjust in and out times, Make sure you're aware of whether or not you have allowed negative packages, and confirm your half-day package definition. That's going to be your major source of possible errors if you set things up incorrectly and are checking pets in and out, and they seem to not be working correctly. Apart from that, again, daycare is the one you have to really keep an eye on. Everything else is a very basic setup. And I don't think there's anything else I can go over. And I want to again mention, just because this is a new feature that we've added because of input from our customers, just remember that we also have the option now to turn off using packages for a visit if the customer wants to pay for a visit and while they still have packages. Other than that, that should really cover it for how to create and manage packages in the system. As always, if you have any additional questions regarding this, you can always contact me at scott@bluecrystalsoftware.com or at 888-486-4343, extension 307.